everywhere.
Yes, let's put it everywhere.
You just let me know when you're good on Facebook.
All right. Talks operations 101. Share on my, can I share to my page? Select page. Oh boy, I sure can. All right. I think we're rocking and rolling, gang.
All right. So I promise not to make it too boring because I know this stuff I love. A lot of agents, this stuff they hate. So I'll try to make this as fun as possible. Just a little bit about me. I am with the Greco group in Beaufort, South Carolina. I've been with them since the beginning of 2020. And I started as a listing coordinator, then transaction coordinator, and now director of operations. And I'm actually the first director of operations for our team. We've just evolved a lot and needed that position. A lot of times, that is how it kind of starts is you have your listing coordinator, your transaction coordinator, or you just have your assistants. And then you realize you need something more, and then you have your director of operations. So before that, I was in fitness, and then I was in real estate, and I will always be in real estate because I just love this position and I love our team. They truly are my driving force every single day. A little bit about director of operations. So you guys who are individual agents
Okay,
are
well,
director of
care if
operations.
I just text you or you take a nap while I watch?
Melina, can you? Don't, yeah, thank you, muting for yourself. Okay, so what I do, I was trying to figure out like 3 bullet points. Someone on our team always calls my position miscellaneous because that is true. Director of operations, you have to kind of just step in where needed because there might be gaps or someone might get sick and you need to know how to do the processes. So in very big words, develop and maintain performance goals and long-term operational plans. Just making sure that everything's operating properly is the main thing here. Analyzing current processes and recommend solutions for improvement if that's necessary. Developing, implementing, and monitoring day-to-day operational systems and processes. That one's just basically we have a support staff and I just monitor it. I monitor what the agents need each day. And yeah, we kind of just go from there. And this is my lovely, beautiful team. Okay, so you might not have a director of operations and you're still on this call. So if you don't have a director of operations and you don't plan to have one in, the next year, why does this even apply to you and why should you even listen in? Well, like I said, if you're an individual agent, you are the director of operations. If you have a team and you don't have a director of operations, you are the director of operations. You might have some tasks if you have an assistant and you have a team, you might, have some tasks that they do that might be operational, but at the end of the day, you are the director of operations of your own company. So it's really, really important to start getting these steps set up now. And that is what Allison did. Allison set up the systems that she could when she had the time before having the director of operations position. So my number one thing, I know that Anna loves Working Genius. And when she introduced this to us, I was mind blown. We used the disc, which is fine. It was eye opening as well, but Working Genius was insane. So this is my Working Genius. And the reason why I think, sorry, I'm again getting over the flu. So sorry if I have to pause. But the reason why I like this is because one, it did teach me a lot about myself and why I love the operational position and why I like, you can see T is my Working Genius. I love pushing projects and tasks through to the end. And I love that. There are many, many people on my team that's their frustration. And so this was eye-opening because from an operational standpoint, if I'm pushing out so much stuff where I'm like, I can't wait to complete project 1 and project 2, and they're involved in it and they have to, come with me and say, okay, now you're going to do this new thing, you're going to do this new thing. Well, if I'm Miranda, I'm just going to use you. I know T is not your working frustration, but if Miranda's working frustration is T, she's going to be like, Kristen, I'm overwhelmed. This is not working for me. And so this was very eye-opening because I didn't really understand why a lot of our team members didn't want to like jump on board with me and do all these things and push it to the end, but they're maybe eyes and they have all these ideas, and I thought that they wanted all these things, and it's like no, they're just brainstorming. So anyways, if you're an individual agent and you haven't done Working Genius, it is $25. Please do it. It is very eye-opening for yourself. And then if you have a team, we all have everyone's Working Genius in a folder in our Google Drive, and you can go to it. Sometimes I forget who's who what because we have a large team, and I go in there and I'm like, "Yep, that's why. That's why we're button heads on this," or gosh, my listing coordinator, she is a high T as well, and I love it. But anyways, that's a little bit about the Working Genius. Really, really good tool. And then let's go into just systems in general. So systems are important. And I think it's also important to say what didn't work, because there are things that, we've tried that have failed. And then there's also things that have changed our lives. So this Sisu, let me preface it by saying Sisu is such a great tool. It just wasn't right for us. And I don't think it's going to be right for us for many, many years. I think that it's just something that one, our agents didn't want to plug into, and that was totally fine. There were a lot of moving parts on the back end. Goodness, I know Miranda probably is cringing at this, but it took us a while to set Sisu up. And I think if we waited another month to think about it and really think if we needed to add it, we probably wouldn't have. But we jumped too quick, and it was just too complex for what we needed at the time. And we'll go over system evaluation, but we didn't fully evaluate the system that we already had and if we really needed to fill the gap with something like Sisu. Um, so anyways, the point of this one and saying why what didn't work is because I think when we have a gap in a system, we automatically want to add instead of just seeing, okay, can we just fix one thing here? Do we actually need to add at this time? But what changed our lives, CTE and Slack. So CTE is the tracker we use instead of Sisu right now. It's got so much in there. You can track expenses in there if you want. We don't. We do that separately in something else. But for us, we track all of our transactions, all of our listings, any listings coming up. We've got our transaction coordinator checklist. We've got our listing coordinator checklist in there. It's really, really good for like CEO summaries for numbers and what the team is netting. And then Slack. Oh, this changed my life at least. I know a lot of the agents, it took a little bit to get it on board, but then they started to really like it because they can clearly see, we have channels for each transaction. So they can clearly see in there, okay, I can go to 17 Royal Pine and I know all my stuff is in here because I'm on the phone and someone's asking a question about 17 Royal Pine instead of searching your email and nothing coming up about 17 Royal Pine. So that's been really, really game changer for us. It's been game changer for our support staff as well, for us to be able to find things really, really quickly because I mean, Miranda's held like 45 transactions at one time. Sorry, I keep referencing Miranda because she's our transaction coordinator. She's amazing. But yeah, she's had to track 45 transactions at one time. And it's really easy for her to go in Slack instead of being like, did they text that to me? Did they email that to me? So love that. It's been awesome. And then let's go into system evaluation. So this is very, very important. Like I kind of touched on when I was talking about Sisu, is sometimes we have systems in place and you might not even know you have systems in place because you've just been doing the same things over and over. But we want to evaluate them because a lot of times our systems can actually be working against us and creating too much time and effort. Versus if we just sit down for an hour, evaluate our system, and see what we can really do to improve it, it can now work for you and for your business so that you can go out and do, more belly to belly sales and do what you're good at so that on the back end, everything's working for you. So this is our strategy when we do system evaluation. Sorry, what system are you currently using to do X or for X? And I'll do an example of this on the next slide. But it's a lot of questions. It's okay, let's ask this first question and then let's go into these two subjects. So, is it scalable? Is something scalable? Because a lot of times what happens is you all of a sudden are running a race and it's August and you could have worked on something in January to better your system and make it scalable, but now you've doubled your business in August and it wasn't scalable. So now it's creating more time and effort, and now you have to go back and make it scalable. So when you have the time to evaluate your system, evaluate the specific system, and then ask yourself if it's scalable, you've got to make it scalable. And then responsibility. Who is responsible for the system? This was really eye-opening when we first did a system evaluation on like one subject matter, and I realized that like 6 people were responsible for the system, or there was one system that we didn't even know who was responsible for it. And so that is very, very important. And I'll get to like too many cooks in the kitchen. But when there are too many cooks in the kitchen, it gets so confusing and messy. And then when you don't know who's responsible for the system, well, that's obviously a problem too. And then performance, rating the ability to perform the system. Is it a 1? Is it not working at all? There's no system at all? Or is there a 5 where it's working really well? And then action, an action to improve the system. So we're evaluating it. Now, what are we going to do about it? And then this is an example. So what system are you currently using for contract to close? And then is it scalable? So right now, this is for our team. What we have right now, it is scalable. And the responsibility, this responsibility falls under Miranda and Janelyn. Janelyn is her assistant. And then performance, 5, the system works well. And then action, this was something that we actually implemented, I'm pretty sure like 4 months ago, 5 months ago. We implemented office hours because we realized that Miranda was getting really bombarded with like a lot of random calls when she was trying to do someone else's transaction stuff, and then someone else would call in with an emergency. And so we implemented office hours and they've been working really, really well. So you can see the system worked well, but there's always something to improve. There's always a gap or something's changed in the market where we need to adapt and shift. So this has been really game changer for that. And I do recommend doing this quarterly. We did not do this quarterly last year, but we are going to be putting this in quarterly where we examine all of our systems every single quarter because everything is always changing in real estate, as we know. Okay, this is gonna look like a headache to a lot of people, but I promise that you don't have to read anything on the right. I'm just using this as an example. So flowcharts are very important because when there are too many cooks in the kitchen, it can be really, really bad. So we actually had it was an old listing flow chart that we no longer have because we realized it was going from the agent to the listing coordinator to our virtual assistant, back to the agent, back to the listing coordinator. And so it was all over the place and it didn't make any sense. And so when we did it like this, when we created a flow chart and we could see the colors, we were like, whoa, this is going all over the place. It's not working. And we were able to change it really, really easily when we saw a visual of it. If you're not visual, this might not really apply to you, but a lot of our team is visual and a lot of our back end. So we were able to really evaluate and fix it. This is our contract to close buyer transaction flow chart. So this actually is getting updated this quarter, but you'll see in the purple is our agent. So what we wanted to see is, when I first created this, the agent was actually involved a lot more. sorry, the agent was involved a lot more. And we wanted to make sure that the agent is not in front of their computer, that they're not having to do absolutely everything with the lender, right? Like they're there to do the belly to belly sales, they're there to negotiate, and that's about it. Like you're providing good client service, but at the end of the day, our back end should be client service, and our back end is going to be in front of their computer every single day. So that's why you'll see a lot of blue here and green. Green is our lovely virtual assistant. But I really do recommend doing flow charts also because, you just never know what's going to happen in a position. We've had, several listing coordinators, and it's been much easier once we had a flow chart to be like, here's the process. If Miranda becomes A+ agent and she wants to do that full time, this is going to be so much easier to be able to be like, hey, here's the system. Even actually, I had this when Miranda joined our team as transaction coordinator, and it was so much easier because she was able to just see the flow of it and see, okay, this is where Janelyn hops in, this is where the agent hops in, this is what I'm responsible for. Okay, if the appraisal goes this way, I do this. And everything on this in our system is in a template. So Miranda has templated emails. Like there's no reason to start an email over. You're sending the same email. If the appraisal is supporting the sale price, you're sending it the same email. If it supports the sale price but needs repairs, same email, just put in what the repairs are that you need. If the appraisal is low, she doesn't really do anything because the agent will call for that. But everything is templated for her, and it makes it much more streamlined. So that is definitely something that I would recommend doing. If you don't have templated emails, start creating them in Google, on Google Sheets. Not Google Sheets, sorry, Google Doc. So red light, green light, and tracking expenses. Also, anyone stop me if you have any questions because I go through things very fast. I'm sorry, I know. But red light and green light and tracking expenses. So this is very important. Obviously, if you have a business, you should be tracking your expenses, but also not just tracking them, going back, seeing, okay, did we need to do that this month? Red light and green lighting it is just literally, if you do it in Google Sheets, go to that line, make it red, go to that next line, make it green if you need it. So red light is obviously you don't need it next month. We probably shouldn't have done this month. And then green light is stuff that we absolutely need. So we use two things. We just incorporated Streamline Business Solutions, which is a company that does like the accounting and stuff, because Allison and I are not accountants. We try our best to track numbers, but at the end of the day, they're accountants. They're really good at tracking everything, obviously for like taxes and stuff. So they go in, they'll send us a P&L on the 15th of every single month for the previous month. With that being said, we could just sit back and say, okay, we'll wait for the 15th of every single month to get our P&L from last month. So on January 15th, I could say, all right, I'm going to evaluate what happened in December. Will I do that? Yes. But at the same time, I think there is a responsibility of not being reactive and being proactive. And someone had actually sent me, which if you have anything on here that I'm saying that you're like, I just want a plug and play system, like how did they do that? This Google sheet that she's about to talk about, I want it. Just shoot me an email because someone gave me this Google sheet. It's plug and play. Like, don't try to start from ground zero on this stuff because it'll take you too long. Just ask someone for it. But our Google sheet, it's called a money meeting sheet, and we have one every single month. And so every single week, I go on our money meeting sheet, I check our credit card, I check our bank account, and then I check what we've had come in our income. And I'm able to see what we've made so far, what our expenses are so far. And then I can go to Allison and say, hey, we're really behind this month because we did X, Y, and Z. Or I can say, we're ahead this month. Our day of profitability is the 5th. we're doing great. Like, is there anything else that you expect coming up? But this way we can be proactive so that if she comes to me and says, I don't know, she doesn't do this, but I want to plan a party at the end of the month for X, Y, and Z. And then I can say to her, hey, we actually don't have any room for that expense this month. Um, so that I really, really like because I don't love being behind, and I feel behind when we get a P&L on the 15th of every single month for the previous month. So that's just a little thing of what we do. Obviously, it's not required to always have your P&Ls, of course, but I really like being proactive in that sense. And then a GPS. I think with the beginning of the year, this is very, very key, but I like GPSs because it breaks down one goal and then you have priorities and strategies. The example I'm going to show is a little bit less, but typically you have a goal, you have three priorities, and then under those three priorities, you have five strategies. And you don't have to have five strategies, but it just gets your brain thinking to see, okay, what action items can I implement? So I do one every single month. A lot of our agents do this monthly and quarterly. I would say most of them do them quarterly. And that can look like I tried to make it kind of my example, kind of like how an agent does it, but I will go through this and kind of zhuzh it up so that if you're an agent, you can see how this would work agent wise. So this is coming out of if you're on a team, if you're a team leader or you're an assistant on a team or you're a director of operations on a team, this is something that yours might look like. So for January, our goal as a team is to close 35 units. Well, my priority for this is I need to improve follow-up plans because to be honest, 70% of our agents don't have a follow-up plan or they just don't have one that is consistent. And so my strategy number one for that is to review each agent's 90-day pipeline biweekly. That's just a pipeline sheet that we have. And then strategy number two, ensure each agent has an automated follow-up plan in Boomtown. I do want to go over this because as I was writing this, I'm like, strategy number one. Okay, so now I'm going to implement biweekly meetings. I'm actually not. I'm going to create a Loom video every single second week, every bi-weekly, however you want to say that. I'm going to create a Loom video and I'm going to share that with them. So it's not like I am taking so much time out of what I already have in my day. I'm just going to review it every single second week and go ahead and send them a video. And this way also, it's not taking so much time out of their day. They just have to watch a 5-minute video and be like, oh yeah, dang, I forgot about that person. I mean, sorry, Melina, I'm going to use you as an example, but me and her talked yesterday about her 90-day pipeline. And I was like, hey, what's going on with this guy? And she's like, oh, well, he's not coming in until February or whatever she said. And I said, okay, well, why haven't we, gone to Fripp and Data and seen like send him some videos and make sure that this trip is a buying trip and not an exploratory trip. And so it's we're able to really get down to the nitty gritty. So I think if I do that where I send some Loom videos out, they can send a voice memo back to me, they can send a video back to me, or they can call me and we can really get into that. So it's not always adding something to your plate that's huge. It can be something simple. And then ensuring each agent has an automated follow-up plan in Boomtown. That's going to be the hard one because I know we don't love sitting down and following up, doing the follow-up plans and all that stuff, but we're going to try to make it automated. So I'll be meeting with each agent just to see what they have already and going from there. And then our second priority is creating a recruiting system. Our recruiting has always been organic, and it's really hard for us to sit down and create a system, but we need it. We have big goals and we don't want to put pressure on our agents that don't want to do more than what their goal is, obviously. So we just need more people in order to reach our team goals. So strategy number one for that is improving our onboarding system. Our onboarding system is fine. It's not great. It's just fine. And so I feel if I have a really good onboarding system, I'm going to have more confidence when I go to recruit because I know, okay, once we get them on the team, done. I know what we're doing. It's going to flow smoothly. I'm not going to have stress around it. And then strategy number 2, time block recruiting activities, initial reach out follow ups, kind of like how agents do circle prospecting. Same thing as how I would time block that. So my last thing, action item. So I like action items. What do you want to take away from today? 1, the working genius. If you have not taken the assessment yet, or you have a team that has not taken it, this is a number 1 on my list. I think that this is exactly where you start. And then number 2, system evaluation. What systems do you have in place? Evaluate just 2 of them. Pick 2 that you use every single day. Examples, I'll just kind of start like giving you some examples, but listing coordination, contract to close, client care, lead generation, lead distribution if you're on a team distributing leads, stuff like that. That's all systems. And even like open house stuff, like there's a bunch of stuff, buyer consults. If you have a system in place, evaluate 2 of them. And then tracking expenses, figure out, are you already tracking expenses? Make sure you're red light, green lighting it. Are you not tracking expenses? Then let's start there as well. And then GPS, set up a GPS for January. Like I said, it's 1 goal for the month, 3 priorities, and then 5 strategies for those 3 priorities. It really just makes you focus in and get some stuff done. Like our recruiting thing, I don't want to do because, again, like I said, we do it organically, and it just scares me to to recruit, to be completely honest, because I don't have a good onboarding. I have a fine onboarding system. I don't have a great onboarding system. So that's where we're starting with that. And I know if it's on my GPS, I will focus on it and it will get done. But that is it. So, anyways, do you guys have any questions for me? Thank you for all your time too today.
Hey, Kristen, this is Victoria Goins. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Here, I'm going to start my video. Sorry, but I've been out for a walk and I'm not really like video worthy today.
All good.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit more. You said you do 1 goal, 3 priorities, 5
Yes, ma'am.
strategies. Kind of talk me through. I feel like you guys are so strategic and thoughtful in everything you do. So why 3, why 5? Why do you feel like those are good numbers there?
So to be completely honest, a GPS is a thing, and we did not make those numbers up. But you don't always have to have those numbers. So I'm actually glad you brought that back up because I wanted to do an agent example. But say I had Milena. Sorry, I just keep seeing your name, Milena. But Milena wants to close 4 units in January. So she's going to have her 3 priorities. If she wants to close 5 units, I'm going to ask her, okay, tell me 3 couples at least, or 3 people, whatever it is, that you're getting under contract that you're closing this month. And then she'll write down, okay, this person, this person, this person. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, now what is our strategy to make sure they close? Oh, well, Sue and Scott Smith, they're really, really difficult. We're going through the inspection right now and due diligence. And then we'll kind of talk through those strategies of, okay, have we educated them on the inspection? Have we educated them on what to expect on the report? Is it a new build? Is it not a new build? Like, how are we going to navigate that? So it might be educating our client in a strategy on the inspection, talking to them every single day when they're those tough clients, and making sure that we get through due diligence. And then making sure that we're in touch with the attorney a lot because, we all know there are the attorneys that are above and beyond and do so great for us. And then if we know that it's the attorney that maybe doesn't talk to the client as much, well, we've got to be on that phone talking to the attorney and making sure that they know this is exactly how the process is going to go. So that's a little bit of what it would look like. A lot of times if I'm doing one with Milena today, it would most likely actually be for what do we want to close in February? Because a lot of times, obviously, we're working now with who we want to get under contract. And then we might not have 5 strategies for that. And I might have an agent that only wants to close 2 units, right? That month. So we might not have 3 priorities. We always encourage the third just because it might be something like circle prospecting even. But sometimes we don't come up with 5 strategies for each. Does that make sense? Perfect. Anyone else? Nope, no one. That's okay if not.
Everyone's quiet now because we're still at the beginning of January.
I know.
Kristen, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
I've had this question, and we've been toying around for I feel like over a year between like VA and so you've been with them since 2020. So I don't know, at what point did you feel, I guess, because it's been, I'm writing down duties I don't want to do and handing them off to, I don't know, when did you feel like, wow, like, I don't know, full-time type role, like you felt, is there a number of units sold? Because I've been trying to do it. I hired and fired a VA out of what now I have one in-house that I've been trying to get full-time, but I just haven't been able to justify it because of I think we did like 37 deals last year. So I don't know, when did you feel like, wow, like, or was it always a full-time role for you? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
'Cause
So
it stresses me out daily. So
that honestly, that's what happened to Allison. So I didn't even know, to be completely honest, did not know director of operations even existed. Didn't know what it was. Like I've heard of director of sales and I'm like, oh, like that could be a position that we incorporate, right? Like, but I was just doing my thing. I was just doing my transaction coordinator thing. And I'm thinking, okay, like, we consistently have 45 units. Maybe if our team grows, like she'll get a second transaction coordinator and like that'll be that. I didn't really realize on the back end everything that Allison was doing. And so Allison is at this point, she is team leader in production still full time and director of operations for her business and director of sales for her business. So she got to a point where she was just overloaded. And we knew that director of sales just that comes naturally to her, director of sales, and really like just plugging into people. She's just really good at that. I am not. And then obviously she's got to be her team leader self, and she's still in production. But director of operations, that was something that she did not like, and she needed to leverage that off. So it was always a full-time position. I would say, we had some weird stuff happen when I first plugged into being director of operations. We had a transaction coordinator prior to Miranda that just didn't work out. And so I was kind of jumping between director of operations stuff and trying to get a hold of what that would look like. And I was going through trainings and stuff, but I also had to do transaction coordination. So I do think it's possible to start lightly handing stuff off to an assistant. And making it kind of a part-time. They might just still be like an executive assistant, but they have some operational stuff, they have some transaction stuff possibly. But I think the goal is always for a team like how you are, Blake. I think the goal is always to have a full-time director of operations so that you don't have to think about that if that's not your strong suit.
right. No, I appreciate that. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just easy for me, like, and it's hard, I guess, the OCD, laying in bed and I'm just like,
Yeah.
you get something from the law firm and I upload it instead of like waiting and being patient and allowing her to learn it, you know. So that's been my biggest hurdle, I guess. So
And
I-
that's always sorry, Miranda, you can go, but that's always a team leader thing. That was Allison until she started gaining trust for me and Miranda.
Yes,
And
I was gonna say, if you can just be patient, you will have so much more free time to gain more members on your team, help get more leads and contracts. Like, it will really be worth it if you can delegate and be patient.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to trust people. So I get it, Blake, and
Right.
Allison will attest to it, but
Yeah.
it does take time because I mean, your business is, I mean, gosh, with all the leads too, it's a huge liquid asset. And trusting someone with that and not like, I mean, in the beginning, you probably will double check and triple check everything, but at the end of the day, like it will, you know, pay off in, gosh, probably 6 months. I would say it takes Allison probably 6 months at least to trust someone with certain things. But it's because you're building a big business, and it's like trusting someone with your child. Like
It's important. Yeah, it's
Right.
important. Jared was the same way. I've been with Jared for almost 3 years, and he still has problems letting go of certain aspects, because that's your mentality as the leader, is to make sure, because at the end of the day, it rests on you. Everything falls in your lap, you know, and it's hard to let that go, and you have to learn to trust that person. But as you guys work together, you'll trust more and more. And now I asked Jared something and he's like, you're the boss, I just pay the bills.
Yep.
And you know, that's kind of the way it's come, and he really does mean that now, you know, whereas before he used to be like, oh, you're the boss, but really I wasn't the boss. You know, it takes a while for that to build, but you will get it. But you do need to try to have the trust, and remember that there's not a lot that we can't fix.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so if something comes up, you know, being able to step in and fix it is, you know, it can happen. But yeah, it's hard, but you'll get it, Blake.
Sweet, thank you. Yeah, I think you know, I finally got 2 full-timers, so I think there's going to be no other choice but to delegate for this year. So
That's
I think I've
exactly
just
right.
been waiting for that. So I appreciate it. It's been very helpful.
Thank you, Kristen.
Of course. Anyone else? Well, let me also, my email is so long. I'm going to just give everyone my phone number, which is much easier than my email address. So if anyone has any questions on anything that I presented today or needs anything, if you want a GPS, I can get a GPS to you. If you want a money meeting sheet, anything like that, my number is 201-783-4395. I'm realizing that this is also on Facebook Live. So everyone has my phone number. So I might get a lot of spam. Thank you, Miranda, for putting in the chat. All right. Well, other than that, anyone need anything?
Thank you, Kristen, for organizing this, setting this up. Thank you for letting me sit in and learn.
Of course. Thank you guys for coming. All right, guys. We good, Anna?
Hey, Kristen,
Yeah.
thank you.
You are so welcome.
We're all good. And for those of you that need it, we will have the recording up on the YouTube by the end of the day. So follow us on YouTube, Agents Empowered, and this will be up.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you. Bye,
Kristen.
guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.